Hello and welcome to another episode of the Washington Retirement Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Meikle. On this podcast, I help Washington State employees get a better understanding of how their state retirement benefits work, how they can utilize those benefits to potentially retire earlier and pay less in taxes. In today's episode, we're going to be going over the investment portion of people on Plan 3. So if you're a Plan 3 member, that means you're a TRS 3, or PERS 3, or SERS 3. You know, at the end of every month, money is being taken out of your account and put into a retirement account. The state doesn't do anything with investments. It's all 100% up to you to decide which funds you want to be invested in. On top of that, the state doesn't have any licensed advisors on hand, so no one that you could call there can actually give you this type of advice. So if you need help with your investments, this is where you would think you'd bring a financial advisor in. However, with most of them not able to get paid on giving advice, or maybe not even being allowed to give advice on assets they can't manage, it can really lead to a lot of frustration in trying to find the help that you need to make sure that your life savings is invested correctly and appropriately for your time horizon and your risk tolerance. So in today's episode, I'm going to dive deeper into each of the individual investments available inside of Plan 3. I'm going to go over something called the Rule of 100, which is something that anybody can use to get a pretty basic idea of how much risk they should be taking on their portfolio. And it will give you a quick sense if you're being too conservative or you're being too aggressive. Now, this doesn't work for everybody, but it's just a general rule of thumb that can help a lot of people out. Now, if you still want help with your investment portfolios, especially on an ongoing basis, I actually built out a platform that you guys are able to subscribe to, and you'll get alerts on when it's time to make changes to your portfolio. I built up 10 different investment models specifically for Plan 3, covering anyone from conservative to aggressive. And these models get updated monthly, quarterly, and sometimes even annually, depending on which model you choose. So there's a couple different strategies inside of there. If you guys want to learn more about that and what's available, the link will be in the show notes below. Now, this system that we built, it truly is a unique thing that I haven't seen anywhere else available to you guys, and is specific to each individual. You're given the freedom to custom choose your risk level, as well as what assets you want to be invested or not invested in, and we'll automatically adjust our recommendations based on what you tell us. And anytime you go in and change your mind, we'll instantly give you the new recommendations as well. So it's a pretty cool thing. Go ahead and check it out if you have any interest at all. Today's question we're going to be answering, again, comes from our content survey. It's an anonymous survey running over here to get questions from our audience. Somebody asked us, what is the major difference between a 403B and a 457 plan? So towards the end of the episode, I'll be diving deeper into that question there. Now, with all that out of the way, let's dive right into the investments inside of Plan 3.
Hey guys, one of the most common questions I get nearly every single day is how do I choose investments in my Plan 3 retirement account? So in today's video, we're going to take a deep dive into your Plan 3 retirement investments so you can get a better idea of what investment options you have available to you. And I'm going to show you a rule that I use when selecting a portfolio to make sure you're not taking on too much risk. Welcome back to all of my subscribers. And if you haven't done so yet, down below, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss any future updates like this on your retirement benefits or any other financial tips and ideas I throw your way. So in the Plan 3 retirement account, there's a few different investment options you're actually allowed to choose from. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to deal with investments and they just kind of have money sit there, look at their account once a month. If it goes up, great. If not, oh well. But as you get closer to retirement, it's really important to start looking at things a little bit closely, because as your time horizon gets shorter, you're not going to have much time to make up for any losses. So when you're looking into these investment options, we want to make sure we're taking a safer approach to protect the money we have built up and worked so hard for over our career. So if you're not into picking your own investments, that's okay. I'm going to show you an easy way on how to choose it. And if you need help, give us a call and we'll be happy to help you with that as well. So now I'll actually flip over to my screen and go to the Plan 3 website and walk you through it. All right, so here I am on the DRS Plan 3 investment website. So I'll drop the link in the description below so you guys can go to this page as well. So today we're just going to walk through the different investment options you have as a Plan 3 member. So when it comes to the investment side of Plan 3, your money is going to be on either one or two programs, or maybe you can have it in both. But basically there's the WSIB program, which everybody got defaulted to if you started before July of 2011. If you start working after July 2011, you're on the self-directed investment side. So the WSIB only has one fund in it. It's the total allocation portfolio, and it's typically pretty aggressive. So oftentimes as you get closer to retirement, you want to scale back your risk. It makes a lot of sense to actually leave this side and go into the self-directed side because you can scale back your risk level by choosing safer investment options. Also, the benefit of being on the self-directed side is when it comes to your retirement and actually accessing your money, or if you want to transfer to a different institution, money on the self-directed side usually gets transferred in 1 to 2 weeks, so pretty normal here. The TAP side is pretty illiquid because this fund is actually designed to be transferred into the TAP annuity, and we're not going to go into that today. But this fund here, it's pretty illiquid and takes them 2 months or so before you can get your money. So it's not the most liquid investment to have. So today we're going to spend most of our time here on the self-directed program. So they say there's two sides to it, one step and their build and monitor. So what most of our clients do is we're on this side here. We handpick our own investment options. And the reason being is while you can choose from this one step target date funds, oftentimes they have a little bit too much risk still in them. And we'll go look at the performance here in a bit. But for us, we like to scale back our risk a lot lower than what the target date funds do for you. So if you want to do it yourself, yeah, this might be an okay option. But more often than not, we like hands picking from this list here. So all these lists are ordered in degree of risk. So the short-term investment fund is going to be the least amount of risk associated with it, and the emerging market is going to have the most amount of risk associated with it. So when you're looking at it and you want to pick something a little bit safer, you want to stay on the top side of these plans here. All right, so now let's just keep scrolling down. We'll get to the performance section. And we'll stop right here. So a quick note, as far as investment advice, and this is where I see a lot of people get it wrong or have some kind of misunderstanding, and it says it right here. While the DRS and Plan 3 record keeper can provide you with information about investments, they cannot offer investment advice. So oftentimes I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I'm just going to call the state for the advice, or my school district is going to handle my investments for me. That's not the case. It says it right here, black and white. So if you need help choosing your investment lineup, whether it's Plan 3 or anything else, you want to make sure you're going to be talking to a financial advisor, and that's what they recommend right here. So don't call the state for investment advice because they can't give it to you. So enough with that, let's go down here. So this is the investment performance. They only report on a quarterly basis, so the last quarter that ended was March 31st. I'm doing this video towards the end of May, so it's still going to be another month before this is updated, and the market has recovered much since this time. So if you look at here, this is the lineup for what they said, the one step, or these are just the targeted funds. So again, it's ordered from lowest risk to highest risk. It looks like a lot of numbers on the screen, but really what it is, it's anything in this kind of teal or gray shaded area is the actual investment fund. Anything in the white is your benchmarks. That's kind of what they're targeting or trying to mimic. So you can see even their safest fund listed here still lost over 7% during that market correction. And to me, that's a little bit too much risk if you're trying to be really, really safe. So this is kind of why I said we really don't care too much for these targeted funds. So you can see even the 2020 funds. So if you're tying this year and all your money in it, you'd have lost 15% during that collapse. Well, that's a lot better than losing the 30%. It's still quite a bit of risk, and it might take some time to get back to even. So if we scroll down here, we're actually going to take a look at the other ones. So right here. So this is the self-directed. So we like this side again because we can kind of control the risk level a little bit more. You see the short-term fund, the safest option here, gained 0.39, a lot better than losing nearly 8%. Even the bond fund only down a little under 2%, so much safer to be on this side here. And you keep scrolling down, you can see we have the emerging market index, which is going to be the riskiest side. So most people are going to be staying on the upper half of this level here. And so when you're looking at this list and trying to decide which fund should I be selecting or where should I put my money, a lot of people just go off the investments. They look at either the 5 or the 10. They say, hey, this one has the highest performance. I'm going to put all my money in this fund here. Now that's one strategy you could use, but should things go south, you can see that can quickly turn around on you. So the way you want to be selecting this is you want to use something called the rule of 100. And what the rule of 100 is you simply take 100 minus your age, and that's going to tell you exactly how much risk you should be taking. All of these investment options can actually be classified into a few different funds. So this one is what we would call cash. And then you have bonds or fixed income, so a little bit safer. And then down here you have equities. So equities are basically stock markets. They're going to rise and fall with the market exactly. So there's 3 different categories here. The social responsible, you can kind of see here in the benchmark, it's actually a mix. It's 55% equity, 45% bond. So it's kind of a hybrid or a split between the two. So you can see it did worse than the bond, but a little bit better than the US large cap when the markets fall. So it's kind of right in the middle there. So when you're using the rule of 100, you start off with 100. Let's say you're 60 years old. We're going to take away 60. We're left with 40. So 40 or 40% is how much money we should still be having in the equity side. So no more than 40% of your money should be in this lower half. So you have your 40 put into either one of these, or you can kind of split it out in 10% of all of them. The choice is yours. Typically, I say stay out of the emerging market fund because it has a pretty significant side of risk. Small caps, they have a lot of risk when the market goes down. You can see they're the worst performing sector. So a lot of times we're staying between the US large or the global equity index funds when we're dealing strictly with equity. So what that also means is the other 60% should be in safer funds. So the 60% should be down on this top half here. So you can put it in any one of these 3 funds and you'd be in pretty good shape. Remember that social responsible, it's kind of a split, so it still has some equity exposure to it. So I wouldn't put too much money into that. You could even put in some of that 40% portion into this as well. If you're really trying to scale back your risk, then you can keep that other 60% really in safer funds. Because you gotta remember that when you're coming closer to retirement, it's all about preservation, not trying to double or triple anymore. So you gotta get into the new mindset of I'm not trying to get 10+% a year in growth. I'm retiring in 1, 2, or 3 years. I need to make sure my money is there. That's the most important part of this time. So it really is a mind shift and a new way of thinking. And you have to be able to put your money into here and be okay if the market does go up 20, 30%. I'm not going to get it all, but I am going to be getting a safe or a decent rate of return. And that's really what I care about, because I want to make sure this money is going to be there for me in retirement to generate the income that I need, right? So going back to the example using the rule of 100, if you're 60, you'd have 40% split up in equities down here, and you'd have the other 60% split in these top 2 sections here. So that's the rule that we like to use when we're selecting investment options or building portfolios for people in a Plan 3 system.
Now the rule 100 is just designed to show you kind of the right balance between equities and bonds. It's not going to give you the exact answers as far as what you should invest in. If you need that type of help, that's exactly what our service does, where we could go in, we tell you exactly what investments you should be buying and when you should be moving them around. Again, that service is linked in the description below. It's for anyone on Plan 3. We can also do deferred comp and 403 plans in there as well. I built the models. All you got to do is log in, pick your risk tolerance, and follow along with the push notifications or emails. Now, as far as the question of the day goes, what's the difference between a 403B and a 457? So there's really 3 distinct differences between them, and that has to do with taxes, access, and investments. So from a tax standpoint, 457 plans do not have a 10% penalty for collecting early. There is no early age. As long as you separate service, you can touch your money, and there is no 10% penalty for touching it at any time. With 403Bs, you can actually access it as early as age 55 with no 10% penalty. So 457, you access it just a little bit earlier. As far as taxes go, if they're both pre-tax investments, they're going to be taxed exactly the same. Now, before separating service, as far as access goes, 403Bs can be accessed through hardship withdrawals and loans, whereas a 457 plan, you can't access any type of loan. They do have hardship withdrawals available. There's a set parameters by the IRS that you can access the money. It has to be used for one of those particular purposes. Loans give you the ability to take money out for any particular reason, and you don't need anyone's authorization or approval of what you're using the money for. It's your money. You can loan it out anytime you want to. So that does not exist in 457 plans, but it does exist in most 403B plans. Outside of that, remember that 457 can only be accessed upon separation of service. So if you are 60, 65, 70 and still employed, you can't touch the money. 403Bs, as soon as you are over the age of 59 and a half, even if you're still employed earning a paycheck, you can now start using that money. So it's the other key difference between them there. From a tax standpoint, they're going to be taxed exactly the same. Whatever you draw from is going to be taxed as income, and you'll pay taxes based on whatever rate you are in. Again, the only tax difference between the two is going to be when it comes to that 10% penalty. If you access it before the age of 55 and 403Bs, you have a 10% penalty. 457s, there is no penalty there. Now, The third, as far as investments goes, this is highly dependent on who the provider is. If you're with Washington State's Deferred Comp, they only have 7 different investment options for you to choose from, plus 10 different targeted funds, so 17 total. If you have a private 457 plans, it depends on who that provider is. There are some that give 10,000 and there's some that give 10 options. Same thing on the 403B side. Those are always going to be private offers. The state doesn't have their 403B plan, but again, there are some insurance companies or annuity providers that only have 10, 15 options, and they might even be high fee ones. And there's other ones that will give you 10,000 different options to choose from, anywhere from mutual funds, ETFs, whatever you want inside of there. So as far as the investments goes, completely dependent on who the provider is. And the same goes for fees. The state always likes to say that the deferred compensation plan is so much cheaper than 403Bs. If they're comparing it to an annuity-based 403B plan, of course it is, because they're not the same type of account. If one's a liquid account, one's an annuity shell, the annuity shell is always going to have higher fees than it. But if you were to compare the deferred comp to like a Vanguard 403B, Fidelity 403B, or an Aspire 403B, and you chose the lower cost options, you actually will have the lower fees than what the deferred compensation plan has inside of them. They actually have higher management fees than a similar funds that you could get straight through a different provider on the private sector. So fees are not the main difference between 457 and 403Bs, although typically speaking, the 457 will have cheaper fees than the average 403B, just because most of them are still annuity contracts. All right, so I hope that helped clarify the difference between 403Bs and 457 plans for you guys there. Remember, if you want to sign up for the investment service, the link is in the description below. Also, make sure you head over to WashingtonTRSPERS.com. That's WATRSPERS. That's my free blog site where I post all the different videos, the podcasts. I also have different free guides for you guys to download as well. So make sure you guys check that out. Until next time, remember that your future depends what you do today. All right, before I sign off, just a real quick legal disclosure that we're required to say as licensed fiduciary advisors. So remember that this is a podcast. It is designed for educational and entertainment purposes only. I don't know you personally, therefore I cannot give you any personal advice. So please don't take anything that we say on the show as being personal, financial, legal, or tax advice. If you want that kind of stuff, make sure you seek out a professional so they can help you with the strategies and investments that are right for you. Also, please remember that despite the name of our show, we are in no way associated with Washington State or the Department of Guidance Systems or any other Washington employer. We're a private-owned firm that specializes in working with Washington State employees, which is why we know so much about this stuff. So remember, we don't work for the state in any way, shape, or form. So please don't confuse us as being an official representative of the state. All right, that's it for the legal stuff. I'll catch you guys all next time.